the fullback situation and being short at centre-half are really, really big issues. And then when you add into the squad dynamic, the fact that they have so many new players bedding in, I think it's easy from the outside just to look at the big green bit in the centre of the stadium and just think everything's about that. But it's not. It's about the dynamic off the field as well. And these things overhaul. But those basics and the lack of a solid defence at the moment and the depth in there is a big issue. And that Gary issue is huge.
I do think Salah isn't playing well. I think he's not having a good season so far, but obviously we don't want to sort of say anything more than that about him, because obviously he'll go and score on a mad run of scoring now. And I think when he's not playing well, the problem with Salah, he doesn't track back. And if you look at yesterday's game, Cucurella, was up and down.
That was the plan for Chelsea, yeah.
Exactly. So they're exploiting that as a weakness. Salah does not track back because obviously he usually goes forward and scores goals. But if he's not scoring the goals, it becomes a problem for Liverpool. And I'm not saying it's a huge problem, but it is an issue. And as Julian said, it's something that Chelsea exploited.
And had he put that effort away after that phenomenal pirouette flick from Florian Wirtz, then things might have been different. But he hasn't been at his best. And Liverpool have been so phenomenal with him at his best.
I mean, we focused on Liverpool just now. It'd be remiss of us not to speak about Chelsea, because this felt like a huge result for Chelsea and for their manager. We saw the pictures just then of him running down the touchline a la Jose Mourinho. And in Jonathan Northcroft's piece, who he was at the game, he said, look, they loved Jose, they loved Conte, and this was Maresca's moment of joining those rebel coaches, coming at the end of a pulsating 100-mile-per-hour to-and-fro football match that either of the sides might have won. The pressure, we have to say, especially at a club like Chelsea, because they have changed their managers at regular intervals in recent history, it was beginning to build on Enzo Maresca, wasn't it? How big a result was that for him?
As big as that run, because for me that celebration is all about the relief, really, of like, if we hadn't won yesterday, so if Estevao doesn't score that goal, the pressure is mounting. And I know a draw at home is not a bad result against the champions, for sure, but it would not just be that result, it would be the previous ones as well. And for me, this reaction was just on the fact that he knew he was under pressure massively, and he was a bit under pressure last season. If they didn't finish top 4 last season, I think he might have been gone, to be fair. So I think this was, and he knew he was on a yellow, so he knew he was going to be sent off, which means the next game in the stands. But I really feel that it was pure relief of like, I was under massive pressure and this is going to buy me time.
I also think it helps him with the fans, because I'm not sure the Chelsea fans have really taken to him. And the point that Johnny makes, and obviously my colleague Matt Law made the same point, is like we've seen Chelsea fans like their managers to be like that. They like them quite demonstrative. They like them quite sort of edgy and out there. So obviously Conte and Mourinho, they loved all that behaviour. So Maresca showing that emotion, they'll have loved that. And that was almost as important to him as the win, I think, to behave like that in front of his Chelsea fans.
Yeah, there's a quote from Jonathan's piece where he says, Maresca turned to the fans, swishing his arms to hype them up. They had liftoff. Now, if you look at Chelsea's team yesterday, Levi Colwill, Wesley Fofana, Tosin all injured, Trevor Chalobah suspended, and the two defenders that they had in Badiashile and Achimpong, they went off injured during that game as well. With all of those ingredients put together, it makes this win even bigger for them, doesn't it, moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it would be seen as a platform for them. And I think huge credit to them. And we did spend the first part talking about Liverpool. But at the same time, we have to give a huge amount of credit to Chelsea for their desire, and 7 players out and unavailable. And the way they performed, and against a side who were desperate for the win as well, in Liverpool, a top side with so many top players. But I think that connection with the supporters, with Maresca, is absolutely huge. I mean, remember towards the end of last season, it looked as though they weren't going to get top 4. They just squeaked it. And I was in Poland for the final of the Conference League when they won that. You could just sense that was a season turned around on its head and in his favour. But these clubs we're talking about are absolutely enormous clubs with huge amounts of pressure. And this show, from one week to the next, has different flavours. Amorim last week, the flavour, when we talk about it in the next part, is going to be different because of one win. So one performance, one win does count for so much at the moment. But I think Chelsea, with all that he's had to deal with all the upheaval of the squad for so many different reasons that are beyond his control, he has to make the best of them. I think that coming together yesterday was huge for them.
But I'd also say that they should be doing this as well. I mean, they've spent inordinate amount of money. And you mentioned all the players who are out, but they're still bringing on Hato and players who they spent huge amounts of money for off the bench. The commentary last night was saying, well, 6 centre halves out. Oh, here comes another centre half. You know, they've got plenty of expensive players in that squad. They should be challenging. They should be beating Liverpool at times. You know, they should be up there. Really, I don't think there's that many reasons for them not to be. You know, in the...
Jackie mentioned the word connection there. Julian, I know Mikel Arteta's always talked about that synergy with the fans. And she also mentioned that, look, they won a European trophy. They ended up winning the FIFA Club World Cup. They finished in the Champions League places as well. If that wasn't enough to get the connection, are you surprised that the start of this season, there has been that pressure on Maresca? Didn't he earn a bit of breathing space for what he'd achieved yesterday?
You know, I understand your question. The Club World Cup, I think, was a big one for them, even if they were lucky in a way to bring Joao Pedro halfway through, but they were brilliant in the final, especially against my PSG team. So you thought, okay, there's momentum there, but I think the start of the season has been a little bit underwhelming. Apart from yesterday, some of the performance that they've had, even in the Champions League, they defeated Bayern, although they didn't play too badly against Bayern Munich. Just you felt that things were not completely right. They would call Palmer in and out, the injury, the other injury to Liam Delap, to Levi Colwill that we mentioned. So things were not perfect.
Should they be cut a little bit of slack, though, very quickly, Julian, because they were in the Club World Cup, and we've seen the number of injuries that they've got. PSG have been suffering from a load of injuries as well. And I heard this stat that they're supposed to have 28 days after a season finishes and then 28 days prep time, and it's almost been slashed in half because of that FIFA Club World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, they can thank the FIFA Club World Cup for all those injuries. There's no doubt. Same for PSG, same for other teams that went far in the tournament. And I think they're paying the price now, and that win is massive for them because of all the injuries that we mentioned.
Brilliant stuff. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more to come on Sunday Supplement, and when we come back we'll be talking all things Manchester United, including this on the back of the Sunday Express, home and away, with Amorim saying we must play like this every game. And this inside the stark lion among lambs. Sir Gareth would be a class apart at Old Trafford.